that whistle one more time, I'm gonna stick it up your fucking ass! Get off the field!
Fucking knew it.
No, you didn't fucking know it. I just
Nobody
told
you to put my nephew under surveillance.
I know, Junior. I know.
While the surface logic of the Mafia suggests a world governed by profit and hierarchy, the true engine of conflict in David Chase's magnum opus is almost always the fragile, bruised ego of the American male.
What am I, a swami?
Nowhere is this dynamic more surgically exposed than in the 9th episode of the first season. While the episode contains various plot threads...
Yeah, Mama hasn't been well in the mind. Last week she threw a jar of artichokes at me.
Well, she better not throw any artichokes at me.
its gravitational center is a scene of deceptive tranquility, a golf game between Tony Soprano and his Uncle Junior. Under the guise of leisurely sport and bright sunshine, a verbal skirmish takes place regarding a sexual taboo that ultimately shatters the uneasy truce between the two men.
Whoa, Junior.
Oh, Junior, what?
This scene is not merely a crude exchange about oral sex. It is the structural pivot point of the entire first season, a masterclass in subtextual dialogue that deconstructs the hypocrisy of mob masculinity, exposes the lethal nature of shame, and irrevocably sets the stage for the familial civil war that defines the series' early years. To understand the weight of this scene, one must first appreciate the cultural anthropology of the world Chase has built.
Your uncle has acquired a taste for her.
Uncle June gives head.
Oh yeah, like you don't do it.
What goes on in this bedroom stays here, and you know that.
In the hyper-patriarchal reactionary sphere of the New Jersey mob, sexuality is strictly codified. The ideal wise guy is a taker, never a giver. He is the penetrator, the conqueror, and the distinct center of the universe. For a made man to perform cunnilingus is, in the eyes of his peers, a subversion of the natural order. It implies subservience to a woman, a blurring of the rigid lines between the ruler and the ruled. It is viewed as a weakness, a sign that the man is whistling through the wheat field, as the show's euphemism goes.
I still got the coach on my mind. We got fresh air, we got sunshine, we got a beautiful day. Forget about that shit.
Unlike the dimly lit backrooms of the Bada Bing or the claustrophobic interiors of the Soprano household, the golf course is wide open. The sun is high, the grass is vibrantly green, and there are no shadows for the characters to hide in. The golf course is traditionally a space of corporate relaxation and upper-class leisure, a place where these rough men go to simulate the legitimacy of the Medigans.
Trying to concentrate here.
So you play manatee, or what's the name of that other one?
Will you let the man tee you off? You yap worse than 6 barbers.
They are isolated in the frame, highlighting that while the world around them is vast and indifferent, their entire reality is locked in a microscopic power struggle. The physical act of golf itself, the swinging of clubs, the frustration of missing a shot, serves as a kinetic release for the tension bubbling beneath the dialogue. It allows for pauses, for looks away, and for the physical manifestation of aggression that cannot yet be fully verbalized. The dialogue begins with the casual, rhythmic banter of sport, but Tony, incapable of suppressing his own chaotic impulse to dominate, begins to steer the conversation toward the precipice. He is driven by a complex psychological cocktail: resentment over Junior's taxation of Hesh, a lack of respect for Junior's leadership, and a juvenile delight in knowing something the boss thinks is hidden.
So did you get any golf in down in Boca, Uncle June?
Tony starts with geographic metaphors, a common linguistic tool in mob speak used to maintain plausible deniability. He mentions boca, referring to Boca Raton, Florida, but also a Spanish word for mouth. The double entendre is the first volley. Tony is testing the waters, seeing if the vibration of the word triggers a response in Junior.
Uncle June's in a muff.
What?
I'm a rough.
Tony eventually quips, moving from the subtle to the overt.
Did you guys go to a sushi bar? I thought you were a bacala man, Uncle June. What are you doing eating sushi?
Food represents sustenance, culture, and greed. Here, it represents sexual consumption. By framing Junior's sexual preference as a dietary choice, Tony reduces a moment of intimacy between Junior and Bobby into something consumable and, in the context of their racism and xenophobia, something foreign or other. He is accusing Junior of deviating from the meat and potatoes masculinity of the Italian-American mobster.
The fuck's he talking about? You fucking run off at the mouth, you know that?
Junior's reaction is a study in defensive layering. Played with immaculate precision by Dominic Chianese, Junior initially deflects. He is an old man, steeped in the omerta of a previous generation, where private lives remained private. But as Tony presses, using the phrase,
"South of the border, down Mexico way,"
the realization washes over Junior. The camera captures the micro-expressions on Chianese's face: confusion, followed by the dawn of comprehension, followed immediately by a cold, reptilian rage. It is a moment of profound humiliation. For Junior, who has spent his entire life in the shadow of his younger brother Tony's father, and now struggles to command respect as the boss, the knowledge that his nephew, his subordinate, is mocking his sexual proclivities is unbearable. It strips him of his authority. In the Mafia Code, if a man cannot control his woman, he cannot control a crime family. Tony's tragic flaw in this scene is his inability to read the room, or rather, the fairway. He views the teasing as affectionate hazing, the kind of locker room talk that bonds men. He laughs, thinking he is sharing a joke with an equal. He fails to understand that Junior does not view himself as an equal, he views himself as the patriarch. By laughing at the patriarch, Tony commits a cardinal sin. He underestimates Junior's fragility. Throughout the series, Tony often assumes that money and physical strength are the ultimate currencies. He forgets that for a man like Junior, who has less money and fading strength, dignity is the only currency left. When Tony bankrupts that dignity on the golf course, he turns a political rival into a mortal enemy.
Hey, listen, my friend. At least I can deal with my own problems, unlike some I know.
The hypocrisy of the moment is another layer of narrative richness. Tony Soprano is a man currently seeing a psychiatrist, a massive breach of the code of silence, an admission of mental weakness that would get him killed if discovered. Yet, he stands on the green mocking Junior for a sexual act that, in a modern context, is harmless or even generous. Tony embodies the do as I say, not as I do ethos of the decline of the American empire. He judges Junior by the archaic standards of the old school, while he himself secretly violates the code of silence with Dr. Melfi. This underscores the central theme of the show, the decay of rules. The code they claim to live by is fluid, weaponized only when convenient. Tony uses the code to shame Junior not because he actually cares about cunnilingus, but because he wants to exert dominance. It is a power play masquerading as moral policing. Furthermore, the scene serves as a stark illustration of the intersection of sex and death in the show. In The Sopranos, sexual intimacy is rarely safe. It is almost always a prelude to danger or a source of leverage. Bobby Sanfilippo, the woman who shared this intimacy with Junior, becomes collateral damage of this golf course conversation. Because Tony opens his mouth on the fairway, Junior is forced to close the loop.
Did I tell you to keep your mouth shut?
The shame Tony inflicts requires an exorcism. Junior cannot kill Tony immediately, though this scene plants the seed for the assassination attempt in Isabella, so he redirects his rage toward the source of the leak. He breaks up with Bobby, violently pushing a lemon meringue pie into her face, a grotesque callback to the food metaphors used by Tony. The violence Bobby suffers is a direct, kinetic transfer of the humiliation Junior felt on the golf course. Tony's words traveled from the green through Junior's psyche and manifested as physical abuse against a woman. This chain of cause and effect highlights the toxic ecosystem the characters inhabit, where a joke between men results in pain for women. We must also analyze the silence that follows the insinuations. Once the accusation is in the air, the easy rhythm of the golf game is destroyed. The silence between the two men is no longer the companionable silence of a shared sport. It is the heavy, loaded silence of a standoff.
What's that supposed to mean?
Don't bullshit with me.
Hey, guys, we here to play golf or what?
Junior's refusal to engage in the banter, his retreating into a shell of icy dignity, signals the shift in their relationship. Prior to this, they were uncle and nephew, squabbling over money and territory. After this, they are Caesar and Brutus. Tony has crossed a line from professional grievance into personal insult. In the Italian-American culture depicted in the show, you can steal a man's money and perhaps be forgiven. But if you steal his face, war is inevitable. The script, written by Jason Cahill and the writing team, is careful not to make Tony malicious in a villainous way during this scene. He is jovial, almost seeking connection through the ribbing. This makes the scene more tragic. Tony wants to bond with his uncle by bringing him down to his level, by saying, "Hey, we're both guys, we both do things." But Junior cannot exist on that level. He needs the pedestal. Tony's attempt at intimacy through mockery backfires because he projects his own modern sensibilities onto a man carved from ancient stone. Tony thinks, who cares, it's funny. Junior thinks, this is the end of my reign.
South of the border, where the tuna fish play.
This misunderstanding highlights the generational conflict that runs through the series. Tony represents the baby boomer mobster, impulsive, greedy, seeing a therapist, willing to bend rules, and paradoxical in his views on sex. Junior represents the greatest generation mobster, rigid, insecure, obsessed with protocol, and terrified of appearing soft. The golf course is the arena where these two generations collide. Tony's teasing is postmodern. He is deconstructing the image of the mob boss. Junior is pre-modern. He is desperately trying to maintain the myth of the mob boss. When Tony insinuates that Junior is a bushman of the Kalahari, he is essentially telling Junior that the myth is dead, that the Emperor has no clothes, or rather is not wearing the pants. The aftermath of this scene resonates through the rest of the season. The shame Junior feels is the fuel that Livia Soprano uses to manipulate him.
Junior, what the fuck? What's the matter? That bullshit with the sushi?
I don't know what he was talking about. He babbled.
What was that?
You're another one.
Me?
When Libya later suggests that Tony is seeing a psychiatrist and plays into Junior's insecurities, the soil has already been tilled by the golf course incident. Junior is ready to believe Tony is a traitor because Tony has already proven he has no respect for Junior's personhood. If Tony can mock Junior's sex life, what else is he capable of? Betrayal? Turning state's evidence? The leap from "my nephew makes fun of me" to "my nephew must die" seems extreme to the viewer, but within the logic of Junior's humiliated ego, it is a straight line.
My nephew is seeing a psychiatrist.
No shit.
Indictment's being prepared. He's spilling his guts.
The golf course scene is the inciting incident of the internal war. Without the jokes, Junior might not have been susceptible enough to Livia's machinations to order the hit on Tony. Moreover, the scene establishes the pattern of toxic communication that plagues the Soprano family. No one says what they mean. Tony doesn't say, "I know you're the boss, but I feel like I have the real power and I want to remind you of that." Junior doesn't say, "I am humiliated and frightened that I am losing control." Instead, they talk about golf strokes south of the border and sushi. They speak in codes and metaphors because the truth is too dangerous to articulate. This inability to communicate honestly is the rot at the core of their existence. The golf course, with its wide-open spaces, ironically highlights their claustrophobic inability to be honest. They are shouting across a canyon of misunderstanding. The specific choice of cunnilingus as the wedge issue is also significant in feminist analysis of the show. The mob's disdain for the act is rooted in a fear of female power. To service a woman is to acknowledge her needs, her pleasure, and her autonomy. It places the man in a position of giving rather than taking.
When you kiss me down there.
Pass me them red peppers.
By mocking Junior for this, Tony is reinforcing a misogynistic worldview that demands male selfishness. However, the irony, always the irony with Tony, is that Tony is arguably the most pussy-whipped character on the show, dominated psychologically by his mother and dependent emotionally on his female therapist. He projects this insecurity onto Junior. He attacks Junior for going down on a woman because Tony himself feels he is constantly being swallowed whole by the women in his life. Livia's nihilism, Carmela's materialism, Melfi's probing. He needs Junior to be the man, so Tony has a role model. And when Junior reveals a softness, Tony attacks it to distance himself from his own feelings of subservience. As the scene concludes, the viewer is left with a sense of unease. The bright sunshine feels artificial. The laughter feels forced. We understand that a bell has been rung that cannot be unrung. The Boca scene is a masterclass in how The Sopranos utilized the trivial to explain the catastrophic. In other crime dramas, wars are started over shipments of cocaine or unpaid debts. In The Sopranos, a war that nearly destroys the crime family begins because an old man wanted to feel intimate with his girlfriend, and his nephew couldn't resist a joke. It underscores the banality of evil, or rather, the pettiness of evil. These men are not titans of industry or masterminds of crime. They are emotionally stunted schoolyard bullies in expensive slacks, playing a game they don't respect on a course they don't belong on, destroying each other over insecurities that teenagers would grow out of. In the broader scope of the series, this moment is the death knell of the uncle-nephew bond. Later in the series, when Junior's dementia takes hold, the tragedy is amplified by the memory of scenes like this. We remember when they were sharp, when they were rivals, and when they had the capacity to hurt each other with precision. The Boca golf scene stands as a monument to that lost capacity. It captures the exact moment when the possibility of a unified family dissolved into the acid of male ego. It is a scene about the boundaries of the body and the boundaries of respect, and how, for men like Tony and Junior, crossing one inevitably leads to the violation of the other. The grass was green, the sky was blue, and Tony Soprano smiled as he destroyed his family's future, one crude joke at a time. This is the genius of the scene. It hides the horror of the inevitable fratricide in the bright, sunny wrapper of a morning on the links, reminding us that, in the Soprano world, the darkest moments often happen in the brightest light.